So I am excited to introduce Sam Ames. Sam is a legal and policy strategist with 15 years doing the work for this community. And I first met Sam when he was at SAMHSA, and since then have wanted to keep him close because the work that he does is really phenomenal, and he's a terrific advocate for our community. He has held leadership roles in organizations like the Trevor Project, Lifeline, the National Center for LGBTQ Rights, and served in the Biden-Harris administration for both the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services. Sam is also the founder of the Born Perfect campaign to end conversion therapy and currently leads Threshold Strategies, which is a consulting firm on justice-centered systems change. So Sam, thank you so much for being here. I am so lucky to know you and just really glad you're able to join us in the space.
That was the sweetest introduction anyone has ever given me. Thank you so much, Angela. Hey, y'all. My name is Sam Ames. My pronouns are they and he. I'm so grateful to be with you today. And Angela's right. Among other things, I am indeed a civil rights lawyer. But before I did boring stuff, I had been working in the LGBTQ movement for a number of years. The first few years, though, were as a street activist in Oakland, California. And in 2008, what feels like a long, long time ago, uh, the same day that we elected our first Black president, California, which is my home state, which I am, some would call aggressively proud of, also passed something called Proposition 8, which made same-sex marriage illegal in my home state. And as far as we have come now, and happy anniversary, happy 10th anniversary to Obergefell v. Hodges, which enshrined a constitutional right to marriage, as I think Curry told you. What people don't always remember is that what was really painful about that day wasn't really about marriage. It was about waking up and finding that your neighbors and your teachers and maybe even your family had voted that you were less equal than they were. And as really often happens in social movements, what happened next was largely organic. A whole lot of us took to the streets. We exercised our First Amendment rights to protest. And what became really clear to me in doing that is everyone has a different set of skills and strengths and abilities to contribute to the work for justice. After some time with these incredible organizers and activists, I realized that I actually wasn't that good at being yelly. Confrontational is not what I am. My temperament and the way that my brain works were closer to the great attorneys from the National Lawyers Guild who were defending us when we got ourselves in trouble. I literally got my first acceptance letter to law school from the middle of a 100-mile march from San Francisco to Sacramento, right after which I called the state bar to make sure that if I got arrested later that day, I could still be a lawyer. And what they said was probably. But I did become a lawyer. I've been doing that work ever since. I should maybe clarify there are other paths to that career that don't make it hard to vet you for government jobs, but you do you. One of the things that is still really true about me is that my roots are in those streets and in the history of resistance that our ancestors and our elders modeled for us for so long. This isn't, as hard as this moment feels, the first time that we have been through this. It might also not be the last, but we are really far from being alone in this tradition of resistance. I had that on my mind a lot last week when we got the news that the Supreme Court had struck at the right to gender affirming care in the US v. Skermeti case, which I know was a really hard day for a lot of us, mine included. And in trying to figure out what to say today, I kept finding myself just rewriting versions of a thing I wrote that morning. So I decided to just read a version of that thing to you. And poor Angela asked me to talk about hope, and I'm a little bit about to do the opposite. But I promise you it's good news in the end. um, it's called What US v. Skermeti Did, What It Didn't Do, and What It Can Never Do. There's going to be a lot of catastrophizing today. We lost Skermeti, one of the biggest transgender civil rights cases of our time. There is no getting around that. We also lost the dedicated 988 option for LGBTQ plus youth in mental health crisis, which could not be worse timing. And this opinion could have set us back decades in a few key ways that it did not. And I realize those are details. Today, we get to grieve this loss, and it is a loss, but we also can't give in to catastrophizing. We cannot predicate fighting on winning. We are going to lose a lot in the days to come. And if we're going to make it through the nights, we need to find something to fuel us that runs deeper than hope. We're past hope. We don't fight because we think we're going to win. We fight because it is how we hold on to what makes us human. The instinct to take care of each other is the best of us, and it's also something that we queers have spent millennia getting very, very good at. I think it's easy to forget how recently it is that we have located victory in halls of power. Our incredible advocates have secured such significant wins in government these past years that we have almost forgotten we were forged in loss. With a couple of exceptions, the most important moments in our history have almost always been about a handful of friends trying to protect each other from this uniquely cruel brand of annihilation that is scored by laughter. Stonewall, Compton's, Cooper Donuts. I'm not sure what formal legal equality would have meant to our ancestors who were using their bodies as shields between their friends and police, or who held hands in defiance as officers of the court were hurting them. I do suspect that they knew what we could stand to remember, which is that you cannot burn us all. Even when we lose the battle, and it can often feel like we lose a lot more than we win, they have never, not even once, rid the world of us. They can make our lives hard. They can strip us of our rights, our dignity, our future. And if past is prologue, they might. But when they're done, we will still be here because our existence isn't predicated on our rights or our dignity or even our future. We live not on hope that things will get better, but as the brilliant playwright Tony Kushner often says, past hope. We live because, in a way that isn't quite replicable in any other community, we are defined by how we love each other. We have spent centuries fighting to keep the people we love alive another night, knowing that a night will come when we can't. It's a kind of reckoning that queer people have spent generations practicing. We know that there's no such thing as winning permanently, not even for the people in the Tennessee state government who think they've just won their case. It is temporary. It is all temporary. I think America sometimes tries to cling to this idea that loss is an anomaly, but it's the one thing we have in common. Not just queer people, it is part of what it means to be human. Maybe part of the legacy that we inherit as queer people is that as soon as we know who we know what loss is. When those who came before us, what those who came before us did in the face of that kind of temporariness was take each borrowed day and distill as much beautiful, fabulous life from it as possible. I think that's so why we're so good at live theater, and maybe also why we cover everything in glitter. I think we could probably take a lesson or two from those ancestors in the days ahead of us, even if they're difficult. If we only fight because we think we'll win, we aren't going to last as long as we're needed. And also, honestly, looking around at our country, I don't have a lot in common with the people winning right now. I don't want to. I don't actually think you do either. I think that's a good thing. Our ancestors weren't winners. They were freaks and they were weirdos. And I say this with great pride. Queer people are and always have been losers. And we're really, really good at it. There are ways in which winners aren't really good in a fight. Hope is it's a fragile muscle. It relies on glimpses of proof. It withers when those glimpses aren't forthcoming. But when push comes to shove, I pick the losers every time. We know how to live past hope. We fight because we love each other too much, and we're still here. Not because we won, but because we're part of what it means to be human, and we are not going anywhere. We don't follow hope. Hope follows us. Also, I know that you're going to ask me about joy in a second, which is a transition I think makes sense.
That's fair.
There are two things I love almost as much as queer community. I love my home state of California, and I love riding bikes. So 3 weeks ago, I rode my bike 545 miles through my home state of California from San Francisco to Los Angeles as part of the AIDS Life Cycle, which raises money for HIV and AIDS services in California, which is not actually my direct work. It's just adjacent. It was really long and it was really hard, but one thing it really teaches you is that there is absolutely nothing in the world so hard that it isn't made easier by a drag queen giving you a hug and feeding you strawberries. So I recommend that to anyone who has access to it.
That is amazing. Thank you so much, Sam, for being here. Your sort of post scrimetti, of course, went viral, and I had read it, but it's totally improved by just hearing you speak it. So thank you for bringing it to us here today, and just your wisdom of like how do we react after something like this? And it certainly isn't to give up. There's just so much more that we can do, and yeah, we as losers really know how to show up.
That's right.
Like we're
That's
some
right.
young losers out there. So Thank you, Sam, for being here with us. Thanks for your work in the past, in the present, and certainly in the future. Much appreciation to you. And I hope that you have a good rest of your day. And